Beautiful day, Patriots. How are you? We're going to talk about a few things again right now about America's history and how we are under a spell and not able to really see how things really are in front of our face, okay? And during, let's say, 100 years ago, so it's 2000, so 1900s, right? The East Coast was populated with lots and lots of people. And in the 1800s, there was these incredibly huge buildings, New York skyscrapers, and then also the old cathedrals and these incredibly large stone buildings all over the place. I mean, we've got proof of those. Some of them are even still standing to today, okay? But then when we go and look at our history, at that exact same time, we were coming over to the West Coast, right? The East Coast is all populated, and then we get the Louisiana Purchase, and then there was the Gold Rush, and all these historical moments where we take horse and buggy and go this way. Even though we can see all kinds of technology on the East Coast here of incredibly stonework and huge advanced buildings. Okay, and then on the West Coast, they show us pictures of just incredibly, rough, people living in the most roughest conditions. And at the same time, using stone tools, crude tools. How come none of this kind of technology went this way at the same time? So what I'm going to do is show you and sit there and say, let's look at some of these pictures from the West Coast at that time. We're talking about large things and the large trees right? And on the West Coast of America, especially in Northern California, the largest trees in the world, right? The redwoods, the sequoias, these just incredibly large trees, right? And if we go and look at some of these pictures of these trees, of the loggers that were taking down these trees, we're going to discuss that. Now, I live in Oregon, and this is not the first year of firewood for me. This year we went out and picked up a minimum of 5 to 6 cords that we went out and cut, stacked, logged, brought back, split, and stacked. So, and like I said, this isn't the first time. And when you do these type of things, you pick your wood differently. You don't just go out there and pick any type of wood just because it looks like a nice log. You don't just pick it. You study it, make sure it's the one you think would burn well. And when you cut the woods out there in the forest, there's certain things that you learn along the way. You think it's just really simple to cut something, but there's tension in these logs. And if it's not done correctly, and if you're not aware of what's happening, you could cut something and it snapped. And especially if you're cutting down a tree, okay? If you're going to cut down a tree, you know how we do this. We put that notch in it, and then you come back on this side and draw it straight and cut a line. And then the tree will fall down accordingly this way. But as that happens, there's these things called barber chairs. And when you cut down a tree, you never are able to take the saw all the way through. Okay, the tree will fall down way before you're able to get the saw all the way through. Another problem is that when you're cutting this back cut like this, that the weight actually sometimes goes back this way and causes the chainsaw, to get stuck. And you can't go forward. And you can't pull the chainsaw out. So you put in these wedges, you pound the wedges, lift the tree up so you can pull the chainsaw back out. But anytime you cut down a tree, it's always going to leave a stump, obviously, correct? And if these things are done like this, if a tree's got a back cut or a front cut like this, and then the back cut like this, it should leave a square stump. But as I say, when the tree falls, it leaves these splinters right here. And these splinters are very dangerous too, because as the tree falls, these splinters come crashing out in unknown ways as the tree spins and all kinds of things. And any logger knows how dangerous it is to actually cut down a tree. It's people have lost their lives. Any logger, especially in the Northwest, knows it's just because it's usually family things that do this because it's so dangerous. It takes so many years of experience to just cut down a tree. Now, when we go and look at the pictures in the oldest pictures of the loggers on the West Coast cutting down these incredibly large, huge trees, these incredibly large trees, we can see that when we've got pictures of them, like say in the tree, and they've got the cut, you know, this back cut like this, that square, this one right here. And when you look, I'm not saying that the axes, because I'm a wood carver, I know that you can take axes and make this back cut super, super clean, but why would you need to make it perfectly clean? And when you see the edge down here where the two butt up together from this side and this side, it's absolutely a perfect straight cut, just like a chainsaw would leave. Just like a chainsaw would leave, okay? And they're saying that they're doing it with these axes. Again, I'm not saying that you couldn't, but I know what it's like to cut down trees with axes, with chainsaws. And it's so dangerous, I don't cut down any trees. It's just too dangerous. I wouldn't even attempt doing these type of things. And so then, again, when you come back on these great big gigantic trees and they do the back cut with the handsaw, the thing would pinch. You wouldn't be able to get that thing back out. It would just pinch. You would never be able to get a wedge in to lift that size of a tree back up to get your saw back out. But then more importantly, when they show the trees when they are laying down on the ground, when the tree is now on the ground, they'll show them pictures of the cut of the tree, like they're showing the diameter, and it will show the back cut there, but everything is smooth. There's no way that it would have been able to be cut like that. It can't be cut like that. It would be splintered. You're like, oh, well, no, they cut the splinters off. No, the splinters go in and out. It'd leave a hole there also. You'd have to cut it off way out there. Then also, again, so we've got the tree laying down on the ground. And they're showing how they've got these cuts going down through so that they could take them out in sections. You can't take your saw and just go all the way down through the log. You have to dig holes underneath it if you were going to get your saw all the way through it. Otherwise, the log pinches on itself and you can't get the saw back out. You can't. It pinches on itself. The way it's just physics. On the smallest scale, imagine on this largest scale. Imagine on this largest scale. I'm proposing that it's possible that those trees are relic leftovers. And those pictures are there trying to hide the history of Paul Bunyan's style of people that came in and were able to cut these trees down like that. And then for whatever reason left these particular ones. I go out for years, and collect wood in the firewood in the forest. And I call it termiting because a lot of times I've never brought chainsaws with me. I go out there and look at people's places that have cut down trees and done their logging and cut everything. And I pick up all their leftovers. I don't have to do anything but pick up leftovers, stack it, bring it back. I don't even have to cut it. I call it termiting. Okay? So I know how hard it is to cut these type of things. And if you're going to cut these type of, what happens is that when you go out and collect this wood, people will cut it up and they cut more than they could actually carry out. So they leave the leftovers. They leave leftovers. It's not weird to do that because you couldn't carry it out. So what do you do with it? And if it's not enough to go back to that location to get a full load, you might just go to another place. I'm just saying that if we look at the trees, that these old historical pictures of the Northwest, if you look at the pictures of them cutting down, don't even think about the tools that they were using. Just look at the evidence of the saw marks on them and the evidence of the barber pole chairs and the stumps and the backing of them. And ask yourself, how did they get the saws down through there? By just using hand tools. It is literally impossible for that story to be true of how they are explaining it. But again, that's just a personal opinion.